Welcome back, Pirate Nation. This is another episode of the Anchor Podcast with Dr. Brandon Hubbard, where we aim to keep you inspired, informed, and anchored in what's happening in Chilton ISD. Today, we have an inspirational guest, someone who I find to be inspiring. We have with us entrepreneur, educator, Miss Brisa Coronado. Thank you, Brisa, for joining us today on the Anchor Podcast. We're so glad to have you here.
Oh, thank you, Dr. Hubbard, for having me. It's a pleasure for me to be part of this project.
So, Brisa, we met many years ago.
Yes.
Actually, you were a student of mine at a school in Waco. So just kind of tell us a little bit about your early life and just some of your early experiences, your schooling, where you're from. Just kind of tell us a little bit about that.
Yes, so I attended A.J. Moore Academy. I graduated in 2010.
Yes.
And that is where you were kind of like my guide me. You guided me through everything through high school. I've been in Waco ever since I moved here from Mexico. So I am originally from San Luis Potosí, Mexico.
Yes.
And we moved here in 2003, and I've made Waco my home now.
Yes.
So ever since then, I've been in Waco.
So, Brisa, you moved to Waco, to this area in 2003 from Mexico.
Yes.
Brisa, we're here today because I'm interested in your story. Your story is inspirational. There are so many barriers that could have prevented you from accomplishing all that you've accomplished. You're a licensed professional counselor. You're a college graduate. You're an educator. So tell us a little bit about your story and some of the struggles that you experienced trying to get to where you are today.
Yes. Well, I think the first barrier that I encountered here was the language. The language barrier. I mean, I moved here, and so I couldn't speak, read, or anything in English. So I think that was the first barrier, the language. I think with the help of my teachers, my counselors. That is how I was able to get through school the first years. I mean, the first years were very challenging. I'm not going to lie. They were very terrifying, scary. I mean, not only was I adapting to like a new place, I was adapting to a new culture, just everything felt new to me. I felt like a newborn baby.
Yes.
Because I was having to learn from ABCs, from numbers, from school was different.
Yes.
So everything was it was like a shock. So that was like the first barrier I would say I encountered. Later as I got through life, I realized that there were other barriers that I had that I was not aware of until I got to high school.
Yes.
And I realized how difficult it was going to be for me to pursue higher education.
Yes.
And, it's funny because now it was actually my high school counselor, which is, I now work alongside with her. And she was the one that kind of like told me at an early, early stage in high school, if you want to go to college, it's very important that you graduate in the top 10%.
Yes.
So I said, okay, well, what can I do?
Yes.
And she's like, it's very important for you to take advanced courses. Yeah, because I knew in that moment that my parents were not going to be able to help me pay for school because of, I was the first one to go to college, that I was wanting to go to college.
Yes.
And I guess it was, it didn't even cross their mind, I think. So I told my counselor, all right, well, let's do it.
Yes.
So I started in freshman with my advanced courses. And it was kind of hard. Well, it was hard because my English was very limited at that time.
Yes.
I had only been here like 3 years, and now I was into pre-AP courses and AP courses. And I didn't feel smart. I feel like I doubted myself so much because I was with, native speakers who had like really high vocabulary, and there I was, little me with limited English and very shy, very kind of like wanted to hide myself. And but yeah, and then it was getting closer to graduation, and it was like, oh well, if you're undocumented, you have all these barriers, right? And you start getting all these obstacles. But I think I've always been a person of faith, and I've always. I remember I told my parents, I'm not going to stop until the president of the college tells me you cannot come here.
Right.
So that is how I went along. I just, taking my advanced courses, checking my GPA every semester.
Yes.
Check and making sure I was still there and I was still in top 10%. I was still academic achiever. Just checking those things. I was pretty involved in school, being part of clubs, because I knew where I wanted to be. I knew I wanted to graduate.
Right. Your story, hearing that, how you overcame all of those barriers is inspirational. It shows that a person with perseverance, a person with faith, a person with the drive to accomplish can and will despite those barriers. In Chilton ISD, we have a high percentage of Hispanic students, upwards of 65%. And many of our students, believe it or not, still face some of the barriers that you faced as a student, moving to the country, not being a native English speaker, undocumented status. And so I think your story can inspire them that anything is possible. I remember from high school, one of the things that Waco ISD did back then was they had an academic achievers banquet.
Yes.
And you were an academic achiever despite all of the barriers. An academic achiever was someone that was in the top, 3-5% of district students because of GPA. And so tell us what that meant to you, being an academic achiever at that time, knowing the barriers that you had to overcome.
I guess I never knew what I was accomplishing. Like I never really processed what I was achieving. I was just going and I didn't want to stop. And I also look forward because that was a place where I could take my parents. Right. Yeah. So. And I think my parents look forward to it. At some point they were, it came like an every year thing.
Yes.
So I think for me, it was a way for me to bring my parents in and, I guess, and I now I say, please don't do it just for that. But I always wanted to make my parents very proud of me.
Yes.
I wanted for them to feel as if everything they have left behind, was worth it. That, they left their parents, their home, and the barriers that I have faced are probably not as harsh as the ones that my parents faced.
Right.
So for me, it was like a way to, show them that it's just a little bit of, I am, I'm accomplishing things for you guys, and it was worth it.
Yes.
I guess that was the main thing, and I think that they've always been very proud of the things I've accomplished, but I never knew what I was accomplishing because I was always in like going mode.
Yes.
So I didn't really process what I was really doing.
Right. So Brisa, I can share it. During that time, you afforded me the opportunity to be your guest educator for the Academic Achievers Banquet. And I want to say in front of all of these people that are watching, thank you for that opportunity because your story has inspired me to be a better educator, an educator that can make sure that we don't leave any student behind, that every student has a voice and is seen. So I thank you for what you have meant for me as an educator and to my career that I want to dedicate to helping every student achieve. So publicly, locally, I want to say thank you for inspiring me, because oftentimes students don't understand that you guys often inspire us to be better. And because of Brisa Coronado, I'm inspired to be a better educator by that simple invitation that you gave me. So thank you for that.
No, I always share with my sisters because I have younger sisters. I'm the oldest of 5. So I always share with my sisters that I'm very sad that they didn't get to have the AJ Moore experience.
Yes.
And I think that's something that AJ Moore gave us. I mean, AJ Moore made us feel heard, seen, value. I mean, there was not a day where you would drag to go to school. Like every day was a good day to go to school.
Definitely.
Yeah, it was like a good. I don't know. It felt amazing. I love my high school experience. If I can go back, that was probably the stage that I'll go back. My high school experience.
Definitely.
And I mean, we had amazing teachers.
Yes.
And we had amazing, admin, which was you and the other stuff. And I strongly felt value.
Right. You guys inspired us. You guys encouraged us to work hard as educators. So you made it through high school. You graduated at the top of your class. You went to college. Tell us, where did you go to college? How did you make that happen? Tell us about your higher education journey.
I guess that's where I started realizing how hard it was going to be for me with my lack of status, right?
Yes.
I was undocumented. I was an undocumented student. And although I did graduate with, honors and I graduated in the top 10% and I had other scholarships, I really wanted to go away. I really wanted to go to UTA. That was like my dream school.
Yes.
And we visited. My parents went. I was very excited. But I guess a lot of things started, I guess as I started processing with my parents, what would that mean? What would that look like? Well, what is it? What if this happens? And what if this happens? And just playing worst case scenarios because you kind of have to be ready for them.
Yes.
And so then we realized, okay, well, maybe the best course of action would be for me to stay local, right? And that way, I also wanted to be on the loop of my sisters because I'm the oldest, so I always kind of wanted to make sure they were doing the right things and they were in school. My youngest one at that time was a pre-K.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
Yes.
She was starting pre-K, and I the homeworks, the conferences, I was the one that was taking on that role for my parents because they didn't speak English. So at some point, I also felt a little bit responsible for them.
Yeah. And
so I didn't want to leave all that to my parents. So we made a decision. Yeah, it was best for me to stay. I attended MCC. Once again, all my school has always been funded, thank God, with scholarships. And And then after the 2 years, then I also wanted to go away, but it was the same thing.
Yes.
It was the same thing. And I could have gone, gone away to college and go have the university experience. I feel like that's still something that's still there.
Yes.
But I knew in the long run that it was best for me to be home with. I'm also very attached to my parents.
Yes.
So I knew that me being away was going to be, they were going to be always worried about me and thinking about me and what if this and this. So I just stay, and I transfer through the university center. And then that is where I was told, oh, you can't be a teacher at this point because you lack Social Security and Social Security number. And I went home and I cried, and I was like, no, I can't be. I really wanted to be a teacher. That has always been my dream.
Yes.
So my mom, I sat with my mom and we started saying, okay, well, which way can we go? You're still in school, you want to graduate. So I went into social work. I got my bachelor's degree into social work. Then came 2012.
Yes.
And President Barack Obama gave us what is Deferred Action for childhood arrivals, which is DACA. And that opened so many doors.
Yes.
I mean, it's just like my dreams flourish in that
Yes.
moment. So that allowed me to have a driver's license. It allowed me to have a social security number, and I was finally going to pursue my dream.
Yes. Yes.
And then I pursued my alternative teacher certification, which I did. I started as a teacher assistant,
Yes.
and then I worked myself up. Then I was a first grade bilingual teacher for 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
I attended graduate school. I am now a school counselor,
Yes.
and I'm also an LPC.
Wow. That is an amazing journey. You're an educator. How many years in education now?
I would say 7.
7 years as an educator, a teacher, counselor. But in addition to being a school counselor, you have your own private counseling service. You're an LPC. Tell us a little bit about your counseling service and who you help.
Yeah, so I recently opened, and I'm going to say the name because whenever I was deciding the name of my practice, I said I wanted to be in Spanish, right?
Yes.
I wanted to, relate to my people, to my community.
Yes.
So my practice name is Corazon Counseling Services. I mainly serve children, teens, and adults.
Yes.
I feel like my own experience, my experience in education has allowed me to see people from different perspectives of lives.
Yes.
So I do provide counseling services. And that is, I see it as a way, it is also very healing for me, right? Because it's when you've been in that situation and you wish you could have someone to process with, then that's, for me, is healing.
Right. So, as a counselor, as an educator, what's the most rewarding thing about the work that you do? What provides you the most joy?
I love working with children.
Yes.
I really love working with children. And I think just the fact that they look forward to see me and they hug me and they connect with me and I can speak to them, I guess especially to the newcomers. I see them and I see myself a few years ago, right? So I can definitely relate and I can connect with them.
Definitely. So, as a Latina professional who's experienced so many barriers trying to get to where you are, what words of inspiration, if someone who came to the country is experiencing some of the barriers that you experience, but has dreams, wants to be a professional, productive citizen, what inspirational words would you have for that student who might be experiencing some of the same things that you are?
I would say courage. Have the courage, and probably the for me the most important one has always been faith, because I've always asked God, right? And every day I say, please help me serve the way you want me to serve, right? Open doors open doors for me, or give me the right things to say. I've always been a very a person of faith. So I would say faith and courage. And I would say confidence too, even though that's I mean, until this day, that can be a thing that I still struggle with, because a lot of time I guess it's hard for me to believe, or it's hard for me to take space in certain places, right? Because a lot of times maybe those places weren't for me and now I'm there.
Right. So courage, faith, and confidence.
Yes.
Have the courage to persevere, the faith to believe that you can, and the confidence to be visible in different spaces.
Yeah, to become visible, and maybe you're going to have to be visible in invisible places. Right.
I love that. Be visible in invisible places. So tell us, Brisa, you've overcome. You were a top 10%, I think maybe even top 5% high school graduate, pursued undergraduate degree, went to graduate school, became a certified educator, licensed school counselor, licensed professional counselor, entrepreneur by opening your own counseling service. I don't know how you have time to do all of that, but tell us, Brisa, what's next for you? I know that you are always a person who's been driven, who never stops. So tell me, what's next for Brisa Coronado? What's the next step for you in your professional career?
You really made me thinking right now, because that's a good question. I mean, I feel for sure I want to reach more, more people of my community with opening my practice. I hope to, bring awareness to mental health field, right? To create mental health awareness. Educate parents a little bit more about different topics that a lot of times parents are not aware. I think that would be my, inspire other students that it is possible. But probably as of right now would be, I really want to touch into the mental health.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So make sure that schools and just people in general are aware. Yeah. Because sometimes there is a stigma associated with mental health care, mental health professions. And so I think that's amazing. Your heart for service is evident. And I believe that the people who watch this will see and feel the heart of service that you have. I'll say, Brisa, you are inspirational. Just listening to your accomplishments and all that you've accomplished, knowing you since I think you were a freshman in high school, seeing you go through and persevere through that, I continue to be inspired by your story. And I just pray that I can be the educator that would help inspire more Brisas to keep going and to provide that outlet for every student to be successful. So thank you, Brisa, for being with us. Thank you for inspiring us. Thank you personally for inspiring me to be the best educator that I can be. Thank you for joining us on the Anchor Podcast.
No, it's I've always been inspired by teachers like you, by administrators like you, right, that actually look out for us and for making me feel seen and heard and valued. I thank you, and I think you for sure are touching a lot of hearts too as well. Here.
Thank you, Brisa. Thank you so much. Thank you for being with us. Pirate Nation, I hope that you are as inspired by Brisa's story as I am. I hope that you, no matter your status, realize and understand that your dreams, everything that you want to achieve is possible. Thank you, Pirate Nation, for tuning in to another episode of the Anchor Podcast, where we aim to keep you inspired and informed about what's happening. If you're on YouTube, subscribe to our channel, where we'll have more inspirational podcasts like this one. Follow us on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram. Make sure you tap into the Anchor Podcast with Dr. Brandon Hubbard. Again, Brisa is an entrepreneur, corazon, counseling services, parents, students, that's an avenue for you. Thank you, Brisa. Thank you, Pirate Nation. Until next time, keep refusing to sink.